Okay, welcome to the next of the Comp 1 2011 exam pests, where we're looking at the cricket scoring game, the cricket dice game, and we're looking at writing the top score array back to the file, so updating it in other words. This is pretty much a dead cert to be included. There's two obvious possibilities about how this could be asked. Being asked to just save it at the exit, so as the last thing, always save it back to the file, or as an option in the menu. Those are two possibilities. I guess that the option in the menu is the most likely one. Either way, we need to create a new procedure, and actually that's what I'm going to look at this particular pest. I'll do a separate video to look at this adding an option in the menu. So we're going to look at just saving as text, because that's the really easy way of doing it. And then I'll look at all the changes we need to make if we're going to add a new menu item afterwards. Okay, so we're getting a new procedure. We're going to call it SaveTopScores. Seems a pretty sensible name. Within that, we obviously need to open the file. We need to write the array of records. And to do that, we're going to loop to write each particular line. And there's a couple of ways we'll do that, but we'll look at it. Always, we need to close the file. Now, you may have learnt a variety of ways of doing this. There's three obvious ones in VB. There's a system I/O, there's stream reader writer, and then there's the good old-fashioned file open method. That's the one I'm going to use because it's the easiest by a long way. Right then, rather than me spending a lot of time typing everything out, I've kind of got the procedure set up. So save top scores, and crucially I'm passing the array of records to it. Don't forget to put the little brackets, otherwise it doesn't think it's an array, and it's of type topscore. That's the custom data type we've dealt with previously. So first things first, I need to open up the file. I'm assuming you know what this procedure does. It gives it an arbitrary, well, you give it an arbitrary number. That's the file path. So obviously this file has to be in the debug bin. If it's not, you need to put the correct path. And I make sure the open mode is output because I'm going to be writing to that file. We now need to sort of think about the loop. So we better create a stepper variable just to control the loop. And I'm going to loop from 1 to max size. Don't forget, max size is the constant that controls how many top scores I'm dealing with. So to actually write the data to the file, I just need to add this line. I need to use the print line function. This is one of the ways of doing it. Not necessarily my favourite, but certainly it's the neatest. 1 is the file number, and then I simply separate the things I want written, i.e. my first data item, my comma, and my second data item by commas that are separating the parameters for this procedure. So this will produce a comma delimited file. So I'm not concatenating a string, although maybe that would be my preferred option. The simplest option is to have a single print line, which is that, and that, 3 things to be written to the file, and that would actually produce a comma delimited file. Now, it would be separated by tabs as well, and that makes me a bit nervous that it's not exactly what the examiner wants. So I think a little bit safer would be to use this structure, and here's one I prepared earlier, almost identical, but rather than using print line to have this sort of comma delimited format, what I'm going to do is have it so that I can concatenate a single string. I've got record as a string, everything else is the same, and record has the 2 data items, and they're concatenated in the usual way with a comma, and then that whole thing is written to print line, and then that would get written to the file. Now obviously we need to call this, and if I want to call it, the best place to do it is just to call it down here and just to have save top scores. So at the very end of it, that'll be there. I mean, here you can see I've actually left where I've done some other work a menu item with it, but we'll cover that in the next pest. So regardless of whether you use a concatenated string or this print line, and I think for the exam I'm going to say the concatenated string, then use the print line, you are going to have a loop that basically takes each line of the record of arrays and writes it to the file. And next time we'll look at how to add a menu item to get this called in a nice way.